our bodies are our vessels. And when we come back into our home, into the vessel, that is our home, right? Essentially for our soul, we start to feel that sense of alignment and that peace and that calm.
When you do those things that light you up, like that is like the true definition of self-care to me, because you feel lighter, you feel better.
It's not a luxury. It's a necessity, right? It really is. And we've been given these desires, and we've been given the things that light us up, that make us feel the most like us, because we are meant to do that, right? That's what makes us feel the most connected to who we are and who we were born to be.
It is possible to be successful doing what you love, doing what lights you up, and being the thing that brings you home to who you really are. It's possible.
It's possible. And not only is it possible, it's like, it has to be. What's more practical and realistic than doing and being the thing that you feel the most natural at?
As we grow in this journey, we start to realize just how unlimited we actually are. We have so much more capacity to learn things than we think that we do. And it's just allowing ourselves to be all of ourselves, to really step into our full power.
Get ready to love everything I am. All I want to be and understand. 'Cause I won't dim my light for no one.
They told me I had to pick one thing. No. Diamonds are multifaceted, and so are we. It's about time we let all the parts of us shine. How can we climb out of the box and fully embrace our own authenticity? I'm Cara Lee, and it's time for the Multi-Passionate Mama podcast, where clarity and creativity go hand in hand. Hello, welcome back to the Multi-Passionate Mama podcast. I hope everyone is well, especially because if you don't know this, it's like wintertime, at least here in the US. If you are listening and you're not in the US and it's not wintertime and you have summer, that's amazing, and I hope you're telling me all about it, because I want to hear about how it's sunshiny and warm and like happy, warm, playful times. It is 6th season up in here, and nothing could have prepared me for the resurgence of COVID, because I was really, really under the impression that COVID ended like 3 years ago. And tell me if that was true for you. Anyways, my husband and I got COVID, and we've been like dead to the world for the last 5 days. It's been absolutely bonkers. I'm starting to feel like a human again today. So that is lovely. But anyways, we have the coolest guest on the show today. Our guest today is the incredible Amber Susa, and we're going to talk all about embodying all of ourselves, being super authentic, really figuring out who we are, and then owning it, which I think might be my favorite topic ever, because I just love it so much. So Amber Susa is the author of Born to Be All of Me, Moving Out of Self-Abandonment into Authentic Embodiment, a best-selling book in the category of personal development and spiritual growth. She is an entrepreneur, a fitness expert, a lifelong dancer, holistic health and embodiment coach, a Reiki healer, an inspirational speaker, performer, spiritual mentor, and teacher. She's the founder and owner of All of Me, a platform for holistic health and healing that focuses on movement, meditation, and mindfulness. She's the creator and writer of her one-woman show, Waking Up to All of Me, the integration of the inner child and the empowered woman, performed most recently at the Hollywood Fringe Festival, where it received rave reviews. She is most passionate about supporting women in becoming all of who they were born to be. Amber currently resides in Palos Verdes, California, with the two loves of her life, her daughter Dawson and her son Will. She's amazing, and as you can tell, this is like the most perfect topic for the show, because I'm obsessed with authenticity and loving our full, multi-passionate selves. We have so many parts of ourselves that we need to embrace. And this is the perfect conversation to really deep dive into that. So welcome, Amber. I'm so excited that you're here. Hi, Amber. I'm so excited to talk to you today. I have just loved seeing all of the work that you're doing because it's really, really inspiring. And I think my favorite thing is that you talk about being all of ourselves and really, really honing in on our true, authentic personalities. So I'd love to start with how you decided you wanted to have that as the title of your book and your podcast, and what led you to that being the central theme of everything you're doing.
Yeah. Hi, Carolee. Nice to be with
Hi.
you.
We're going to just deep dive into the tough questions.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. So what happened was I was a co-owner at a Pilates and fitness studio when I had my spiritual awakening 10 years ago. And how it manifested for me was I started having severe and debilitating low back pain. And I had been an athlete and a gymnast and I'm a dancer. And so I had always relied on my body to be able to work through any of the stresses of life. And that was taken away from me temporarily. And I began a meditation practice reluctantly because it was not my go-to. I was used to being able to be, high intensity, go, but I couldn't move. And that's where my journey led me, was a meditation practice. And once I started that practice and I started to be able to hear the voice of my soul again, I became so passionate about all the things that I was learning that I wanted to share it with everybody. That's just how I am. Once something starts working for me in my life or I feel excited about something, I just want to tell everybody I know about it. And the clientele at my studio, it was called HIP Studio, and it stood for High Intensity Pilates and Fitness. So everybody that was coming to us, they were looking for high intensity, right? But I'm like, okay, yes. And also I want to start talking to you about meditation and right, mindfulness and spirituality. And long story short, originally I planned on expanding that business and having a yin to the yang. My business partner had not had a spiritual awakening and wasn't going down the path that I was going. And so the name of my new expanded studio was going to be related to that studio, and life presented an opportunity to pivot.
Yes.
And so that was no longer an option for me. And through a series of events, I ended up selling my part of the business. And I was in the shower one evening, and I was trying to come up with names for my new studio that I was going to open, that was going to be bringing together movement, meditation, and mindfulness. So the fitness elements and also the meditation and mindfulness. And I was in the shower and I'm trying to come up with names. I was thinking I was going to name it, after my other business. And I'm in the shower and all of a sudden it came to me. I said, well, really this journey is about all of me. Bringing together all parts of me, not just the physical, right? The emotional, the spiritual, the mental. And I didn't want to name my business All of Me. So it flashed Allomi, spelled Allomi. I was thought that was a fancy way of saying it.
It's
but anyway,
beautiful.
So
Yeah.
here I am years later. I ran that business for 5 years, went through a divorce, went through a global pandemic, decided to leave the brick and mortar. And so the theme of All of Me just kind of stuck, and it continues to grow.
I love it. And I love how that fits so perfectly with the theme of my show, which is about embracing, all the multi-passionate facets of our, sparkling diamond selves, because we need that yin and yang. We need the balance of both the the masculine, structural, fast-paced, like get stuff done parts of ourselves, but we also really, really need that feminine flow. We really need to slow down. We need the meditation. We need to be able to have that creativity that comes when, especially when we're in the shower, we allow ourselves to stop trying to be so productive and get so much done. It's so beautiful. And I think that we don't often give ourselves enough time to slow down and allow that inspiration to come in. We
Right.
really need more of that in our lives.
Well, that's, yeah. I mean, we've been conditioned to think that in order to achieve the success that we are going after, we need to be productive all the time. And that's just not the case, because definitely for me, slowing down allows space for ideas to be birthed and for me to be able to tune into that little voice that I believe is my soul guiding me.
Yeah. Well, and we are able to be more productive in the long term when we slow down and then allow our bodies to rejuvenate and our spirits to, commune with the divine and with our souls. That's how we can eventually be more productive. But if you try to just be productive 24/7, you will burn out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And also, I notice too that when I'm being productive, oh, it's 11:11. When I'm being productive from that place of, I got to get this done, I need to force it, I need to make it happen, it's coming from like a constricted, fear-based place
Yes.
rather than an inspired place. And I can take a lot of action and feel inspired and not get burned out. But if I'm taking it from like a fear place, a force place, it doesn't feel as good in my body.
Yeah. And when we act out of fear, things just never seem to work out right. Like I've definitely noticed that when like things always seem to go wrong when I'm coming from that rushed, have to fear-based mentality, that's the when I start tripping up. That's when like all of the doors start slamming shut and like literally like things just happen to go wrong. And I'm like, what's happening? Why are all these things going wrong in my day? And it just all of a sudden magically things just like stop working out. And you're like, why is it that all of a sudden like these mechanical things just broke and like everything just like weirdly starts going wrong?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's a
then
cycle.
when
Isn't it a cycle of surrender?
yes.
It's like I find myself, like I'll be in flow. I'll be taking action from this inspired place. I'll rejuvenate. I'll reset. I'll recharge. And then somehow I end up back in this place of like fear and force. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? So I'm like, okay, surrender, slow down. Yeah.
It's amazing how quickly we can jump right back into that place where it's like you're meditating, everything's amazing and great. And then you turn around and you're like, wait a minute, I'm out of it again. How did I get there again? It was so fast. And it's so much about the noticing and the awareness piece and going, I get to choose. I have the power to choose my mindset and the framework from which I'm living my life if I decide to be aware of how I'm doing it. And so that's coming back home to going, I'm safe. I get to be calm. I get to be safe in my body and really embodying that peace. And that is so much of the work that you do with the movement and everything. So I'd love to talk about how you embody safety.
Oh, yes. Well, we were talking before we hit record about my dance, and I've been a dancer my whole life. And dance has saved me over and over and over again. Anytime I'm feeling like out of alignment or in fear, I put on the music and I start to move my body and I come back. Like you just said, I come back home. That's exactly for me what dance does. It brings me back home. And I'm like, oh, there you are. Here we are. Here I am. Right. And that can be for anybody. Like you don't have to be a quote unquote dancer. If, our bodies are our vessels. And when we come back into our home, into the vessel, that is our home, right? Essentially for our soul, we start to feel that sense of alignment and that peace and that calm. And And I can't tell you how many times I've had to go teach a class and I show up in one state and I leave in a completely different state
Mm,
because I have returned home. And it doesn't take long. It really doesn't take long. It's unbelievable. Put on the music,
yeah.
move the body, touch my body, breathe, and I'm home.
Yes, music. I feel like music just, it is so powerful in changing our state. And then when you move your body to it, like sometimes you cannot hear the music until you allow your body to move to it. It like physically opens your ears to the sounds you're hearing and shuts off all of the mind chatter that you have going on and allows you to just be mindful of the moment and of
It's
what's
medicine.
happening. It
Music,
really,
music and movement is absolute medicine.
yes, so much.
You
I,
know.
yes, I do. I
Yeah.
do. I so do. And that's why I know that meditation practice in the morning and that those movement practices, it's such a, it is such a coming home to your soul and to that feeling of peace and safety. And you teach this and you teach women how to come home and how to remember who they are. What I don't know, tips and tricks do you have for women who are going, I'm so busy. I do not have time to like do this every day and to stop and to, I just I have so many things on my plate. How do I take the time out of my day
Yeah.
to make this a regular part of my routine?
Yeah. I mean, you talk about remembering. And I wrote a book this year that came out, and it's called Born to Be All of Me, Moving Out of Self-Abandonment into Authentic Embodiment. And the last chapter, I share the 6 steps to authentic embodiment that were came. I mean, that's what I lived. And the first step is remembering
Mm,
who I am, remembering the truth of who I am. And that did come through meditation initially. That did come through being still and being silent and allowing myself the space to be able to hear that voice. The other thing is one of the very first questions that I ask women when they come to me for one-on-one coaching or in group settings is, what was one of the things that you loved to do as a child?
yeah.
Because I know that every child has something that feels natural, that makes them feel the most like themselves. And then we are kind of conditioned out of that because oftentimes it's not perceived as something that would be realistic or practical to do for a living, or it doesn't fit into the scheme of adulting, right? And so people put it on the back burner. And like one of the greatest, I had this woman I worked with recently, and she first came to me, and I've known her for many years, and she's a dancer. She comes to me and she sits down and she's in tears because she feels so lost, right? She's got small children. She has a job that was the job that she got because that was the, practical,
Yeah.
smart, responsible job to get. And she's doing all the things. And yet she feels lost, or she feels this sense of like disconnect. There's no light, there's no joy, there's no awe and wonder. And first question I ask, because I know she's a dancer, are you dancing? And she says, I just don't have time. I've got my little kids. I've got this job, all the stuff, right? And I said, it's not a luxury. It's a necessity, right? It really is. And we've been given these desires, and we've been given the things that light us up, that make us feel the most like us, because we are meant to do that, right? That's what makes us feel the most connected to who we are and who we were born to be. So she got in touch with me recently, and she's dancing like 3 days a week. And she's actually coming on my podcast next week because I said,
Awesome.
will you come on and share about your experience? Because she now is living in this place where she is embodying how it's not a luxury, it's a necessity. And she's getting to see how it's affecting her the rest of her life in a very positive way, right? So it's so vital to make time for the things that light us up, that make us feel the most alive, the most like
Mm,
who we were born to be. And the first question is, what's something that you did when you were a kid that you just absolutely loved? For me,
yes.
obviously, it was performing and dancing.
Yes. And to me, I'm like, when you do those things that light you up, like that is like the true definition of self-care to me because
Yes.
you feel lighter, you feel better. And if you don't
Yeah.
feel better after doing self-care, then it's not really self-care.
Yeah.
It's really about how it changes you from the inside out because you show up differently in
Yeah.
every part of your life
That's right.
when you're doing those things that just fill your soul.
Yeah.
Love it. So I would love to dive into embodiment and what that means because I think there's a lot of confusion around like, okay, body, that means I have to something with my body. What does that mean to you? And how do you embody something?
Well, feeling embodied and being embodied, I am at home in my body. I am comfortable in my skin, right? I know who I am. A lot of people, especially women, um, have been conditioned to have shame around their innate sensuality and sexuality. And our bodies are like, it's a way to access that, it's a way to express that. And so if we've been conditioned from a young age that our bodies are something to have shame around in any way, right? We're going to shy away from connecting with our bodies in a way that feels really good. Coming back into a place where that we're normalizing that conversation, like
Yeah.
loving our bodies, touching our bodies, giving, experiencing pleasure with our own bodies, um, reconnecting with our bodies in a way that we weren't taught as young people, as young girls.
Yeah. But like women's bodies have been so objectified for so long that we even objectify our own bodies and then disconnect. Like it's
Yes.
our minds versus our bodies when our minds and our bodies are together. Like they are unified, they are one. And when
They
I
are
don't know,
one.
I feel like when you embody any principle or any idea, it's realizing that there's a connection here. Like you can know things in your body, you can know safety throughout your arms and legs. You can feel it in your core, not just in your mind. You
Yeah.
need to have that deep sense throughout the whole of you.
Well, here's the other thing too. You talk about, the mind and the body being connected. Uh, I mentioned having low back issues, 10
Yeah.
years ago. And one of the books that found me was Healing Back Pain, The Mind Body Connection by Dr. John
Mhm.
Sarno. And it introduced me to this concept of mind body connection. It introduced me to this concept of holistic health and healing. It introduced me to this concept that our bodies are speaking to us through the way that we feel. And like you said, so many people are disconnected from that. Like you have something that is not going well with your body, whether that is in the form of injury or illness or maybe a skin rash or whatever,
Yeah.
right? Headaches. And you immediately go to, I got to go take a medication. I got to go to the doctor, rather than really tuning in and saying, oh, what's my body trying to tell me right now? Because clearly I'm out of alignment somehow, right? Because
Yes.
our bodies are meant to be in a state of homeostasis and balance and well-being. And so if
Mhm.
something is off, that's an opportunity for us to tune in. And one of the things that John Sarno talks about in the book is this practice of, you know, in my instance, it was back pain, like really like placing my hand on my body, on my back, and saying to my body, like it might sound cheesy, but it worked for me. And it's a practice that I think is really important. Like placing your hands on your body, on the place where you're feeling any kind of tension or pain, and saying, oh, okay, body. Like, thank you. I know you're trying to help me here. Like, people kind of tend to see their bodies, especially when there's an experience of pain or dis-ease, they see their bodies as like an enemy, right?
Yeah.
Rather than an ally. Like, oh, you're actually trying to help me. You're actually trying to bring me into a state of healing and balance. So yeah, I think it's really important for us to tune back into our bodies and just listen. And that's why getting still and sitting still and just tuning in, like, what am I feeling right now? What's going on? Where am I feeling tension? What could that be? Right? Like trying to help me heal.
Yeah, I love this. And it comes back to that idea of like we try so hard to compartmentalize all the parts of our lives. Like we're like, oh no, right now it's job time and right now is kid time and we separate all these parts, but we also do that with our bodies where we're like, oh, I injured this or right now my stomach hurts and we separate those pieces of ourselves instead of looking at ourselves holistically and going, this body is a system.
Yeah.
What is, this kink in the system is going to be affected by every other part of the system and it's going to impact my whole body. So what can I do and how can I look at this from a holistic perspective to see, what changes I can make that will help and how that can make a bigger difference when I look at it from that perspective, because you cannot separate yourself that way. You cannot disconnect
Right.
your limb from the rest of your body. Just like you can't disconnect your job life from the rest of your life. Like it's all intertwined, it's all connected, and it all gets to be part of you. Just like you were talking with your business, like we are whole human beings and we've got to stop trying to segment ourselves.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a new way of approaching overall health and wellness, though, right? Because
Yeah.
the systems that have been in place for many, many years have not encouraged us to go within,
Yeah.
right? Like we've been encouraged to seek outside expertise rather
Hmm.
than to go within and to recognize that we actually are the experts
Yeah.
on our
Well,
lives.
and I love, bringing it home to dance, like that whole body movement and the whole, like the serenity that comes when with the music and the whole system flowing like together. It really is a full body exercise. It really is. And a mind, body, soul exercise
Yeah.
when you're doing that.
Well, and also like people come take my class they want to come take my class, but they feel intimidated. And they're like, well, I'm not a dancer. And I always say, look at kids. Like every kid, you put on music and they move their bodies around. Like it's a natural, it's a natural
Hmm.
thing to like hear music and to want to move your body and to have fun and to play and to release. And I think children just intuitively know that and feel that. And then, I'm sure everybody has an experience at some point in their life where they have a story around movement or dance. Like, you're not a dancer, or oh, whatever. We've all
That looks
experienced.
bad. Please stop.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah, we all have some experience of rejection or criticism that shifted our belief around it. And then we make a decision. Oh, that's not for me. Right. So,
well, and to me, the most heartbreaking examples of that are when it didn't even happen to you, but your mother or some other figure in your life was like, I can't dance because of X, Y, and Z. And then you take it upon yourself and go, well, if you don't, then I can't, because that's
right.
what we pick up.
We do pick up that. Yeah. I mean, that's
Mm,
one of my favorite things about teaching an empowered dance class to women is seeing that switch happen when they
yes.
go from feeling intimidated or, like just insecure. And then all of a sudden, because of the environment that I create in full permission and freedom and play,
Yeah.
I see them go, ooh, I can do that too. And then their smile, their faces light up. They start smiling. I can see the way that they move their body, that they're giving themselves permission. And it's such a beautiful thing. And then
Yes.
they leave a completely different version of themselves than when they showed up.
Yeah, like this is about having fun. There's no judgment here. There are no dance police. Like you just get to
Right.
move your body. You don't have to have a degree for this. You don't have to have nothing. You have to have a body. You checked it off. Good job. Like
Yes,
you just get to have so much fun.
that's right.
End of story. I'd love to talk about releasing emotion through dance, through the somatic work that you do, because it's so powerful in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I very much see my class as a somatic experience. And even the other day, I use a lot of vocal release as well. Like I not only am I moving my body, but I'm also I'm singing the songs that I'm playing, and I'm like I'll do like a scream or a release, or a yell. And I'll do it to the movement. So, like I'll do like a
Yeah.
squat jump and then I'll throw my arm and I'll like scream out loud. And the other day in my class, like nobody was participating in this release. And I turned around and I was like, I know I'm not the only one that has rage inside. And I'm giving you permission right now to scream and let it out. Right. And so this is a place where you get to release. And I absolutely believe that we store emotions in our bodies. And I'm very intentional. When I'm dancing, I am bringing everything in my life to that experience. I am living it. So, let's say that I've had a challenging encounter with someone, I bring it into the space. And while I'm dancing and while I'm listening to the lyrics, I'm living that experience and I'm releasing it through my movement. And I invite people to also do that in my class. Like, okay, feel in your body. Is there rage? Is there anger? Is there sadness? Is there joy? Is there a sexuality that you're like a fire that you're wanting to release and experience and feel? Like all of it, bring all of it and then release it or experience it through your movement. For sure. I teach my kids that too. I do a lot of shaking also, like, in between the dance. Like it doesn't have to all look pretty. It's not it's not all about looking good. Like I'll do a lot of shaking and, kick my leg, kick my arm, shake my body and just release. And breath. I mean, obviously, using your breath to release is such a huge part of a somatic release as well.
Yeah.
So we get to do all of that.
Yeah. Well, and what came to me is you were saying, well, it doesn't have to look pretty. Is like how much we've been taught our whole lives to like use your body in a pretty appropriate way.
Right.
Like be appropriate with your limbs and keep it all nice and neat and like toned down and like all the things. And it's like, when are we giving ourselves permission to just like be wild with our bodies? Like, how many times in your week are you having a dance party and just like being free and like wiggling your arms, like wacky, wavy, inflatable, flailing arm, flailing man? Like,
Right.
when are
Yeah.
you doing that? When are you giving yourself permission? Or are you just bottling all of it up?
Yeah. Have you
Because
seen the movie Inside Out 2?
yeah, I think we saw it in theaters 3 times.
Oh
It
my
was
God.
amazing. It
It's
was the
so good.
best.
But like the way that they create that visual of
Yes.
being bottled up. I watched that with my kids and I use that visual. Like
It's amazing.
if you don't let yourself release through breath, through movement, through conversation, through
Mm-hmm.
screaming in a pillow, through shaking, through kicking, through singing, through whatever,
Yeah.
you're going to keep the emotions bottled in that, in your body. And that
It's
leads to
so damaging.
so damaging. Yeah.
It's so damaging, and all in the name of like what other people think and what you are thinking that they might possibly think.
I know.
And we spend just an inordinate amount of time worried about what other people think instead of caring about our own bodies and our own minds and loving ourselves.
Well, I'll tell you, that is one thing that is changing drastically for me as I
Yeah.
quickly approach 50 next month, I care so much less than I used to about what other people think. I cared
Mm.
so deeply my entire life, and it did nothing but harm me and cause me to abandon myself. And so I mean, more and more every single day, I just don't have the energy to care. I know that I know who I am. I know I'm being true to who I am. And I know that if other people have considerations or judgments, that it has more to do with them. I did not
Yeah.
know that growing up. I did not know that growing up, you know?
Yeah.
I wanted to fit in so badly. I wanted to be liked so desperately. And of course I still want people to like me, but I'm also okay if they don't. Like I like me. That's the most important thing, right? Yeah.
For sure. Absolutely. It's we it's like the thing as a child is like, what can I do to get everyone to like me? And we don't realize how powerful our uniqueness is,
Yeah.
because it truly is like the things that set you apart. Those are your superpowers. Those are the things that you are meant to just shine with. Like we
Yeah.
are so meant to be different. We are meant to stand out, because if we were all the same, we wouldn't be able to accomplish things as like a culture, as a people. It's when we all have different superpowers that we're able to really work together and move forward.
Yeah. No, I love stand out. That's a term and a phrase I've been using a lot lately
Yeah.
because when I was a kid, I did stand out when I was doing the thing I was born to do, right? When I
Yeah.
was being who I truly am, I did stand out. And I got attention for that, and I got recognition for that. And I also got um, criticized and judged for that by some
Uh-huh.
peers. And that was devastating to me. And so I spent a lot of time focusing on not standing out,
Yeah.
shrinking, dimming my light. And it brought me tremendous pain. And that self-abandonment is really what, culminated in my spiritual experience. And I
Yeah.
have been able to, over the past 10 years, slowly come back to who I am and be willing to stand out and to know that I was born to stand out as we all are in our own unique ways.
Yes, it's amazing how much that like we're learning now and we're understanding now that we wish we could have taught, our young selves.
Yeah.
And hopefully we're able to teach that now to the younger generation so that they don't have to struggle like we did, and, do that inner child work so that we can heal.
I mean, I have my daughter will be turning 12 next week and my son
Mm,
is 10 and I they inspire me all the time to continue on this path because I don't want them to ever feel like they need to dim their light
yeah.
or fit in to be liked, right? Because they are both incredible and in their own ways, in their own, unique God-given ways. And so I hope that by modeling my willingness to stand out and embrace the spotlight and be all of who I was born to be, that I'm giving them permission to do that as well.
That's so beautiful. I didn't realize our kids were like the same ages. My oldest is 14, but my youngest is also 10, and then my middle's 13.
Yes.
Um, how has motherhood affected your entrepreneurship journey with like running your dance studio business and trying to balance that with motherhood? Because that can be a really interesting dynamic.
Well, becoming a mother, I believe, like I wrote about this in my book, that my daughter was born, and I believe that she came to wake me up. And then my son came a couple years later to like, continue that, like, come on, you need to wake up. You need to remember who you are. So I, being a mother is the greatest inspiration in my entire life because they came to wake me up. And then I feel like in turn, it's my responsibility and obligation to model for them a woman who is awake and alive and loving herself. So it all goes together, really. It has always been a priority for me. I've been an entrepreneur since 2011 and had my own business. And so I've always made it a priority to be able to create a work schedule that allows me to pick them up from school and to take them to school and to take them to their after school activities. And, so yeah, it all goes together, right? I don't know. I try to balance it all, but it's all blended together. Like everything that I do, I feel the sense of like, I want to do this for my children. I want to model for them doing what you love, creating positive impact, making a difference in the world, being true to who you are. It's like my work in the world also is who I am as a mother.
Yeah.
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 And
absolutely.
I also think let's face it, if you're on this journey of returning to who you were born to be, there are going to be plenty of times where you just want to give up. It's hard. It's challenging. It's scary. It's overwhelming. It's like daunting at times. It's exhausting at times. It's painful at times, right? For me, being their mom and wanting to model for them everything that I believe keeps me going. Like it literally on those days when I just want to hide under the covers and throw in the towel and say, I give up. I'm like, I can't. I'm here for a greater purpose. And being their mother is part of that greater purpose.
It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. And it's so inspiring to hear you talk about your kids. Like, it's amazing. I love that.
They are, I can't yeah, they're everything. They're everything. I'm divorced. And so, I've been divorced since June of 2020, and I've had to adjust to what that's like, not having them full time. And although it has been one of the most painful, challenging experiences of my entire life, I think it's also allowed me to never take for granted the time that I do have with them and how important and special they are to me. So,
yeah. Absolutely. So when did your book come out? It came out pretty recently, right?
It came out February 2, yep, February this year, 2024. And yeah, it's called Born to Be All of Me. 2 years ago, I returned to the stage after many years of not being on the stage when I wrote and performed my one-woman show. And that was called Waking Up to All of Me. And it was all about like integrating the inner child with the empowered wise woman. And after I performed that, it really just felt like the book was the natural next step.
I love that.
I will say that I did not grow up thinking of myself as a writer. Like, so if I can write a book, I think anybody can. If you feel like you have a story to tell, it lives inside of you. It's possible. So yeah.
That's so gorgeous. And then your podcast.
Yeah.
Tell us about your podcast.
Yeah. My podcast is also called Born to Be All of Me. And I've wanted to do my own podcast for years. And I let the limiting beliefs stop me for a long time. Like, oh, I'm not good at the technical part. I don't have the equipment. I don't have the space. And then finally I was like, you know what? Like Kathy Heller, our mentor that we both love, do it messy, right? You can't wait until you have it all figured out, because we'll just keep putting off the inevitable. And so,
well, and I want to say, I feel like so many of us have that thing, that same old story where we're like, oh, yeah, I can't. I just can't for this reason or that reason or this reason.
Right.
And I have those too, where I'm like, darn, that dream, guess it just can't quite happen yet. And then I get, a year or two down the line and I'm like, I've grown more. And then I'll be like, was that can't a real can't? Was that an actual barrier? No, of course not. That
Of
was just
course not.
another story that
That's
I've been
right.
telling myself about what my limits are. And as we grow in this journey, we start to realize just how unlimited we actually are. We have
Yes.
so much more capacity to learn things than we think that we do. And it's
Yeah.
just allowing ourselves to be all of ourselves, like you talk about, to really step into our full power and go,
Yeah.
actually, I can learn the tech. Actually, like for me, it was I don't have to wait for permission for somebody to, tell me I'm a good enough singer for this or that. I can just make my own album. What? And then I,
Right.
wrote and produced
Yeah.
my album and I had to learn how to do all the things for it. Like
Yeah.
I had to learn all the tech for my podcast. And for a while I was like, I can't do tech.
Yeah.
Like that's not, I can't. And right now I'm in the middle of I can't do live speaking engagements because of my kids. I can't. And I'm working
Uh,
through that barrier of nope, I can't do it. It's not possible. Sorry, none of the dreams can happen. And we have to go through those stepping stones and go, nope, everything I want is possible. I just have to allow it to be. There's a thing Kathy says of I am oh my gosh, I'm gonna mess it up, but it's just everything's possible as long as you can give up the belief that it's not.
that it's not.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, I mean, I look back and I think about all the things that I've created over the years. And I didn't finish college. I didn't go to business school. I didn't grow up thinking I was going to be an entrepreneur and own my own business. And yet I've owned my own brick and mortar businesses, right? I didn't grow up thinking that I could write a book. I mean, so many of the things that I've said yes to that I didn't think I was capable of, I said yes. Also, I called in the support that I needed. I mean, every step of the way, the last 10 years, I've had a coach, a mentor, or a group that has
Right.
supported the visions that I've held for myself. That's why I love supporting women, right? I have a new offering coming out in November, and it's called The Awakened Woman, the 6 steps to
Mm.
authentic embodiment. And it's walking through those steps and supporting women because I know that if I can create these things that I've wanted to create, while also having the belief that I can't at some point, that I want to support other women in doing that and blast through the limiting beliefs that tell them that they can't. Because yeah, you're right. Like every story that I told myself about why I couldn't do a certain thing turned out to be a lie. Like I have a
Yeah.
podcast. I'm doing a podcast. I told myself like I'm not good at editing or I don't know how to do that. Well, so I'm learning.
Yeah.
Like
We grow into it. We
I'm learning.
become as we do it. And there's comes this point where you're like into it and then you're like, no, I still can't. And then you're like, oh wait, I already am. Somehow I got it. Like I'm a I don't know, I'm sort of a professor teaching at the college and I'm like, no, I can't do that. And then I'm like, oh, somehow I'm already doing it. How did that happen?
Yeah. Because you said yes. The opportunity presented itself and you said,
Yeah.
well, because you're using your gifts and you said yes. I,
Yeah.
I told you before we hit record this experience that I had recently where I grew up in the entertainment industry. I at one point in my childhood, I thought for sure that's what I was going to be when I grew up was like a famous movie star. And then that didn't pan out and I got into the fitness industry instead. But I've never stopped loving creative expression. I've never stopped loving the feeling of entertaining and performing. And for me, it's, like I get to do it when I'm teaching my dance class. So long story short, I met this new mom at my kid's school and we got to talking and it turns out she's also a dancer. And so I invited her to my class and I told her like, oh yeah, we pretend like we're backup dancers. And I said, are they ever looking for almost 50-year-old backup dancers? And she said, as a matter of fact, they are. And
Love it.
there is a market for that. And if you're interested, I can introduce you to my agent. I ended up talking to the agent. They signed me, and now I've said yes to this whole new possibility. I
Yes.
don't know what it's going to look like or how it's going to unfold, but I know it's what I love. And I know that it showed up in my life without really even me uh, searching for it. And so I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, let's see what
Well,
happens here.
and when you just own, like when you just really own your own worth and you own what you're good at and you know your superpowers and you're like, you kind of just glow, right? With like, I just love, like, I just, literally you just like love yourself and you're like, look at all the things that I can do and the ways in which you can serve other people better because of the way that you like own how amazing you are.
Yeah.
The way that you glow literally magnetizes people to you.
Yes.
Like when you shine your light, it helps other people see better. And then they
Mm,
can see you and then you can help them. And it's just such a beautiful dynamic.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep. So your podcast, tell us more about your podcast.
So, Born to Be All of Me. So, the people that I have on, I have conversations around the topic of expanding in to all of who you were born to be and
Mm,
what that looks like and what that feels like. I had on a gal, it just came out yesterday. Her name is Rachel Melinda, and she is a sacred DJ who DJs all women's alcohol-free dance parties. And the way that that came about was because she said yes to the things that she loves the most, right? She tells this story that I think is really powerful. When she was 31 years old, she was going to raves and dancing and feeling the music. And she said that she felt the most like her. She remembered who she was in those environments. And then she would have these little stories creep in like, God, I'm 31. Like, all my friends are getting married, having kids, like, you know, have jobs that are like normal and responsible. But yet, in that environment, she felt the most alive and it called to her, right? And it helped her remember. And so she was able to follow those experiences that she was the most excited about, music and dance and movement. And also, P.S., when she was a little girl, she loved to perform. She loved to sing. She loved
hmm
to dance. She was in musical theater. So, it comes full circle. So that's what my podcast is all about, is getting to hear from people who have given themselves permission to come full circle back to who they were born to be and are saying yes to how that shows up in their lives. And she's having the time of her life and she's successful and she's being offered all these gigs and she's having so much fun using
I
who she was born to be, being who she was born to be.
I love that so much because we absolutely need more examples to show us that that's possible. It
Right.
is possible to be the thing you dreamed of when you were a little kid. It is
Right.
possible to be successful doing what you love, doing what lights you up, and being the thing that brings you home to who you really are. It's possible.
It's possible. And not only is it possible, it's like it has to be. I've thought that my whole life. Like, why would I be given
Yeah.
this gift? Why would I be given this desire if I wasn't meant to use it and express it and experience it in a way that not only brings me joy, but also serves humanity in a big way? Like,
Mm,
that makes the most practical sense to me, right? Like, you hear people say all the time, especially when you're an artist, like, well, you might want to pick a backup plan that's more practical and realistic. And I've never understood that because to me, it's like, what's more practical and realistic than doing and being the thing that you feel the most natural at? That is the gift that comes the most naturally to you, that you love the most. Like, how could that not be what you were born to do and be and give and share? That makes
yeah.
the most sense to me.
How can authenticity not be your backup plan?
Right. That doesn't make any sense, right? Like, to deny that. Why would God, this is what I believe, right?
Yeah.
Like, why would God or the universe or your creator or whoever created you or however we came to be, why would that be planted so deeply inside of you
Mm,
if it wasn't something that was meant to be expressed? Like, we are, I believe, meant to express the divine that is naturally and innately within us.
That is so gorgeous. Well, and I just have this hilarious thought coming to my mind of like, okay, well, if Carolee doesn't work out, I'm gonna try Susie.
Right? Yes.
Like that's not gonna work. Let me just try on some other people and see if they work out. Like what? That doesn't work.
That's what I did my whole life.
Right.
That's what I did my whole life was I adapted to fit in and be who I thought other people wanted me to be. And I felt terribly lonely. I felt inauthentic and unfulfilled. So that's like why this whole journey has been what it has been for me, was because that did not work.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Oh, I just love it. This has been so amazing. How can we find you and follow you and take your amazing classes?
Thank you. Yes, you can find me on Instagram, ambersusa.allofme. I share most everything on there. And I have links in my bio for all the things that I'm offering. I have an upcoming, we didn't even talk about this, but I support people in living alcohol-free lifestyles. I have not had alcohol in the last 4.5 years. And that is something that helps me embody even more all of who I was born to be, because I'm not dimming my light with the substance. So I am leading an alcohol-free challenge starting November 1st. That is in my bio. I am leading the Awakened Woman 6 Steps to Authentic Embodiment. That is starting November 7th. That is also in my bio. And if you're local, I'm in Southern California, LA area, specifically Redondo Beach. So if you're close to me, you can come dance with me. You can see that. I am working on bringing my dance to people that don't live locally. So I'm figuring that out. Spread.
Yay! I love SoCal. I was born and raised there. So much fun. All right. Thank you so much. It's been amazing.
Love it. Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Multi-Passionate Mama Podcast. I know that we can never be told too many times how amazing we are, so in case you haven't been told today, you are a freaking rock star. When you let yourself shine, you allow other people to take off their filters and shine brightly too. It's about time someone gave you permission to be all of you. If you enjoyed this show, please leave me a review and hit that subscribe button. I know you want more of this. Sharing is caring. Let someone you love know how incredible they are by texting them the link to this episode. They will feel so good just knowing that you thought about them. Lastly, if you want to know more about my courses and coaching, be sure to check out my website for up-to-date details on everything I have available. It's caroleegarrison.com and the link is in the show notes. Always remember that you are a diamond. Don't let anyone dim your sparkle.